say it's done. I've had some questions on posters specifically, keywords and phrases and things like that on them. I'm listing a bunch. We're going to switch around and I'll show you the stack I'm listing. These are already listed. These are ones that are already listed. I'm going to have a big, huge stack of these put into one of these half cases, half bins right here. It's one of the long ones. They'll fit perfectly fine in here. I'll stack up whatever, however tall this is, 6 inches worth in one of these bins. They won't get messed up. They'll be covered. Nothing can spill on them in the whole works. They're paper. So you've got to be very careful with that. Now we're going to look at the stack, as I said. I'm going to show you some listings and we'll discuss some keywords that you have to use on these sorts. It goes for pretty much any poster. One of the big ones is licensed. If it's not a real one, it's not licensed. It's not authorized. Like with movie posters specifically, it's the same basic principle. If they're real posters, you want to express that fact because, geez, probably 90% of all the posters out there are illegitimate ones, knockoffs, or later pressings that are not promotional licensed products for the most part. Now, we went through and photographed these. We spent some time on it. It's all sorts of different ones too, vintage ones, circus ones. I think this is Steve Martin, the Jerk, maybe. Yeah, Steve Martin. So there's a bunch of these. There's vintage all the way up to probably about 2016 that shows up in this lot. Nice vintage Bruce Lee poster right here. Now, I'm going to put these all up in the next, say, I hope to have them all up in probably the next 7 days. Now, I'm going to list most of these myself, so it'll be a few here, a few there. I think I listed maybe 60 or so yesterday. So let's bop on over. We'll show you the stack. We're going to pop over from there to the listings, and we'll discuss some other aspects when you're listing these sorts of things. Okay, so now I've got this stack right here. I've just gone ahead and actually photoed all of these. I took a photo of every one of these sitting here. I've actually listed all of these over here too. So, and this is the way I am separating these. I've got the number that it's going to be on. This is going to be on the top. Every one under here, I'll stack them in like, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 more than this probably like 40 posters total high per number. Next number will be A2. Now, I actually took 611 images to get this whole stack done. So 611 images. Some of these were individual. There's roughly, I don't want to be wrong on this, but there's 297 posters that will be listed up. I've got this stack up, as I said, so you can actually look at this stack right now, see how they're listed. Keywords are super important with these because most people are going to list stuff like this. Even if they don't know if it's real, they're going to act like it's the real thing. These all came from a record store, literally straight from the store. They've been in storage. I've had these, geez, I've probably had these for a few years now. Now, the person I got these from is the person who acquired them from the store. I don't know the whole detail, didn't really care, but there was enough information, enough stuff that I could instantly tell that these were the real deal and they're not knockoffs. Now, when you look at my title for some of these, you're going to see I have the word licensed store promo in most of these. These were given to stores, and they would advertise what day a specific album or something came out. For, say, Motorhead right here, Bad Magic. Some of the other things that I look for when I'm outsourcing these sorts of things are these. Now, these are perforated. Hopefully you can see the perforations in there. You'll instantly be able to tell when I turn it over. This is Kings of Leon. This here at the top splits off, and this is for advertising just the LP version. I think this is for the store frontage for the CD rack, and then these would just be like in-store snippets for like a big board of the top, say, hot items being released on those specific days. This is typical of what you will find when you buy this sort of thing. Now, I buy these in this quantity quite often. Some of the material in the stack goes back to, there's some Beatles stuff in here, some Paul McCartney and things like that too. So there's a lot of different, I guess necessarily not just posters, but there's some other inserts and things like that. Now, I don't honestly know who a lot of these people are. I've had to look up half of them, probably more than that. I have to judge this too by what I see and what I know. Now, I knew who this was instantly. Sean Lennon is, I believe that is Sean right there, if I'm not mistaken. It's John Lennon's son. It's the only reason I know who this was, because I do follow some of the kids that you know, his related kids from like the Beatles and things like that. So anyway, some of them were signed. I know where this was signed at. I don't know who this is either. So I don't worry if I don't know who the artist is or who the performer is. If they're cheap like this, and to be honest with you, I think I have $50 into all of this, and I sold some already for several $100s that I had a big stack of. I still have some massive size posters that came with this lot from some very well-known groups as well too. This is the small in-store promo. Most of these are 11 by 17 or in that general range. You can see they are from Record Store Day and things like that too. So I can buy these, geez. If a record store is going under, usually this stuff will be sitting there. Usually they get a bunch, they throw it in the back. If they want to run a sale, sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes they'll put these for sale in a record store. Say, hey, they'll be marked down. You want to buy these? Movie stores used to do that. Video stores used to do that too. And again, I don't worry if I can't recognize any of the names on here. What I do look for is the authenticity of the items. Some of these have what they should, legit marks on them. They're on very fine quality paper. You see, they haven't even yellowed. These have to sit in a window. So if they yellow really quickly because they're on cheap paper, like the reproductions, which are 95% of what I run into are reproductions, they're no good. So these are almost always on fine quality paper. Let me just give you a better idea. Again, I've heard of this group, and that's about it. The only thing I can say on this one here, again, you can see they're all about the same size. Some of them were folded when they came in, too. Some came in kits. You'd get a kit for most of these sorts of things. So hopefully, again, this helps a little bit here with these. We'll go over and look at some of the listings themselves, just to give you another idea. But this is the type of thing that I run into, not constantly, but fairly often. Maybe 4 or 5 times a year, I'll run into some big lots of stuff like this. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to come directly from a source or anything else like that. A lot of times what I see are this type of material dumped off in like a big box lot at, say, a local auction. Local auctions, I do extremely well with any of this sort of thing, trying to buy them. I've got pickers, so if they find some, you know, they'll pick them up, they'll give me a call, and off we go. Some of the artwork's actually pretty good on these. Again, I don't know who some of these are. I'm going to have to really do some looking into most of these. Just from the few that I've listed, there's some value in just the few I listed. On average, I would have to say I should at least get, say, bottom end, say, on average, $9-10 a piece at the very, very bottom end. Most of the ones I've already went through or looked at prices, they're going to be in the list price now, $34 to say $75 a piece. There's some that are obviously much better than other ones. But this is what I'm looking at here, just to give you an idea. Now, I actually photo some of these things when I'm taking photos on them. Sometimes I'll even do it on a table like this. We've got a few of these. I just literally bought a piece of, I think it's melamine on the top of this, if I'm not mistaken. I just took a router and I rounded off the edges so nothing's going to happen. I mean, this is nothing special. You can make a huge table if you want. I've got a couple of these. I've got one that I can lay out a poster pretty much as big as you can get on, too. We use it for fabric and art and all kinds of stuff like that, too, but I use LED light panels to light this stuff up. It doesn't take much. They're usually like at 16% out of 100, you know, one of the lower ends. With a good camera and set up right with a nice white background, it comes out fairly good. So we're in the hub here. I've got some listed. I did open up a few too, so we can discuss them as well. Now with posters, I don't do like a real tight zoom in. I do the most important part, and if that happens to be the whole poster, that's what I'm going to do. The key point here is none of my images for any of the posters show any white around the edges. It only shows the poster. It fully encases the entire space of image that I can use as just the poster. I crop out anything else. Now, if some of these had a white border, I crop that off too. I just want full color. I want something that's going to pop better than having a border on top of the fact that the whole screen is basically white on these. So you can see there are some zoom ins on some of them if that's the only important part. Like on these two here, this is My Morning Jacket. There's nothing at the bottom of this. So if I showed it, it's just going to be nothing. Same with this one, nothing at the bottom. This one here, Portishead, their third album. This one here is pretty much the entire image, just cropped out all the extra, any white that was around it that I took in the original. Same with the Paramore, Danny Brown, Motorhead, Afghan Wigs, the whole works. Now, I did list some of these earlier ones here. These are all from World War II-ish, 43, 42 era. Now, I showed these to, I think, everybody in here. I didn't pay much for them. I only have to sell one for even half of what I want, and I got all my money back, and I made a couple of bucks. Now, after that point, I'll only have time into it. The old one-wise, this is one of the better ones out of there. This is Joe Louis, the boxer Joe Louis. This is a Chicago Sun poster, and this was like a freebie giveaway. This may have even come in the paper. I don't honestly know. Sad part, it has been lightly trimmed at the top and the bottom on some of these. Now this one looks fairly good. I really wished that this one wasn't trimmed, but anyway, now I put up some crazy price. I don't have a clue on what something like this would go for. It's not a real image of him. He's not boxing. Although there's not many images of him in the uniform. Obviously, he was a sergeant during World War II, as many, athletes and, famous people in general, actors, actresses did as well. I've got some other ones that I've listed from this lot. I think there's like 40, close to 40 that I listed just from these World War II ones here. Most of them are, famous commanders. I think Patton's one of them. In fact, here's Douglas MacArthur. Let's just give you an idea on this. They're all basically the same type of thing. So basically, I could have used the same, exactly what I did. I used Chicago Sun poster, the size, original, and the year. All I did was keep changing the name. So it's really quick when you list a bunch all together. Now, I was told these were hung on a wall of a recruiting station. I don't know if that's true. I think I even added that to the statement here. Either way, it's interesting. It's unique. It's not made on newspaper print. This is made on actual poster paper from back in the day. It's got the little glossy cover to it. Now, I could have ironed these out and probably got out a little more of those creases, but these aren't anything super special. They do have some damage. At the end of the day, I only may get 10 or 15 bucks for them. I don't know. I just gave it a shot because there's not many, or any actually, I should say, to compare to most of the ones that I have up. Had they not been trimmed, I'd be a little more comfortable with it. But anyway, it's a nice picture. It's an interesting picture. Someone could frame this. It's rather large. There's plenty of space to crop out whatever you don't want on these sorts of pictures. Same one with this one here. The back of these, the image isn't great. I just left it. It wasn't worth messing around with it because if the front's what's going to sell. If somebody has a question or they're interested in knowing anything else about it, they're going to ask me anyway. So I usually don't worry too much if the back of it's white and it doesn't show very well. I'm trying to cut time. We're trying to get more items up. We're trying to push more things out, obviously, because of the season that it is. This is like peak, let's list and let's not source type of thing. Now, obviously, I do source a little bit here and there, just about a necessity for keeping my pickers. I don't want them going somewhere else because I won't buy stuff in certain times of the year. If I'm not buying from them, they're not making money from me. They'll have to make the money from somewhere else. So anyway, that's the aspect on that. Now, I've shown you one just a few moments ago that's similar to this one where you'd separate them. They're perforated. I've got a bunch of those. If it was just the Dido record top there, they're not worth a ton of money. But as a whole, because it actually creates a poster, the store could have used this as a poster just the way you see it. Or they could have ripped it apart if they didn't have space for the poster. And that's usually what you'll see. And sometimes they'll send them a whole bunch, like a whole pack of posters to every store because they want them to push it. They might use all the posters in the background for like decorations in a window for like Tower Records or something back in the day. I researched these. I double-checked the best I could. Some of these were selling for $15 to $20. They weren't the same poster. And some of the ones that I did see selling in that same price range, though, were all marked as store posters. As I said, you need to put licensed in the title. They have to know that it's a legitimate poster, especially on, say, with, like if you're selling on Amazon or something. You want to 100% make sure that anything you sell like that is licensed. I wouldn't mess with it otherwise. It's an original. It's a promo store poster. It's for promotional purposes only. Any of these ones that I'm listing are all promotional posters. They were only available to the store. Now, in some cases, a store may have sold them, but that was against their contract, their dealings with the record company. This material was not supposed to be sold at all. Again, I do get this quite often. It's something I can buy in bulk. One key factor, too, I would always say that you need to add into your listings would be the dimensions of the poster itself in the title. Like this one here, it's 12 inches by 17.5 inches. I have 2 of these, so if you see a 2 here, in fact, let's just show you so you can, in case I didn't point that out. I've got 2. One has a little issue with one corner of it, so I don't want to list them together. Now, in this case, one would technically be worth less than the other one, but if I sell the good one, this one instantly becomes the only one that seems to be up online at any given time. There's very rarely one of these up. There may be no collectors for them, though, but some have sold, so it's about a 50% average on what I see selling and not selling. So at this case here, I would expect to at least sell one of these every 5 or so months based on what I saw. So I'm not worried about the time frame. Same with like Blur or something like that. I looked up everything as I'm doing it. It takes me about a minute or so. I usually keep Terapeak instantly open so I can just bop back and forth. With Terapeak, you can look at the solds and instantly click one button and see how many are active. I usually do like a split screen. I'll minimize them both and kind of cramp them together so I can just instantly see the prices of sold versus unsold. That's usually what I'm doing if I'm looking up a whole bunch of that I'm just having to change a few words to research them. Again, all of these I found track records of sales, not super often. Some of these, again, the poster may be a little different or have some other distinguishing factor. All the ones that I'm listing are legit 100% licensed promotional items that came from a local record store here that somebody I know has a close association with. And anyway, end of story. I'm able to get bulk of this from a couple different places. You may look at local stores and dig into it. You never know. It may be worth going to a record shop and actually asking what they do with their promotional material. A lot of times they don't want to mess with it, or you might find it sitting in a box out in the front in their lobby for like $1 an item or something like that. I've seen that many times. In fact, some of the reasons I'm able to buy big bulk lots of this stuff like this is I told them I'd buy it all and they wouldn't have to worry about piecemealing it out. So that's been a bonus for me. That way they can just call me, I'll buy it all, and I'll have to worry about it from that point on. So basically they call us, hey, I got a whole stack of this or a box of this or whatever the case may be. I can get it dirt cheap. I'm not paying more than a few cents per poster when I buy it all. There might be 20 or 30 of the same one. So that's part of the drawback, because obviously if one of them isn't worth selling, 20 of them isn't going to be any better. It's going to be worse. So I don't pay a lot for them. Now with posters too on quantity, I used to just list one at a time, but I realized that in some cases if someone's a diehard fan, they may want a bunch of them. They may plaster a whole wall with these. So when I have more than one quantity, I almost always list them together. If they're obviously the same poster, but one is in different condition, I do add a 2. Like this is the same technical one here. This is disturbed and destructible, but this one has a 2 there. This one doesn't. So technically, even though they look identical in listing-wise, it doesn't get booted out because of how eBay's system works. One character, one letter, one number will distinguish it as a different listing. It'll have a different number, different everything. Otherwise, eBay can surely tell if the titles are identical, whether it's a duplicate. And if you list 2 identical ones, only one will show up at a time, unless you distinguish it with a letter or something. You have to do that. Again, as you can see, I got a whole bunch of different with quantity. Quantity is a plus. Some are being watched as well already. They just went up real late last night, so they've only been up a few hours. I've already got a couple watchers on a few of these as well. Nothing spectacular. I expect most of these to take a month or 2 to sell. No big hurry at all. I've already got all my money back into them. Now, photo-wise, I did do a little bit of video on how we do the large ones where you're not going to see anything around it. It's going to look nice and clean and everything. I'll show you that in another clip here coming up shortly. It hasn't been edited yet, and I've got some other segments I want to shoot still to that. But on this one, we just threw them on a white background. I didn't worry if it was perfect. I didn't worry if it was on edge or askew a little bit. We had to take over 600 photos, so I was just worrying about time frame. it all comes down to time. In some cases, if I can get a good main image, I'll not worry as much about the quality of the next couple images in that listing. I don't like to do more than, say, 5 photos to begin with for most things. If it takes more than that, they'll usually sit around for a while around here. I don't buy things that take 12 photos usually unless it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. If it's going to make me 20 or 30 bucks and I have to take 12 photos, it's not worth my time at all. Honestly, I don't mess with them usually in those cases. Unless there's hundreds of them and I only have to take the 12 photos once and be done with it. Different story. This is the Dido one, though, again, the perforation. So this is all I'm worried about is the main image. What shows off? You can see her very well. Even though it's a little bit of a skew, it's fine, I guess, for this quality. I'd rather have it looked a little better, but again, the main image is what's going to get them in here. So center in on the main image, whatever you're going to use for the main image. And the second one looks good too. They can zoom in, they can see. There is a little bit of an issue at the top, which I had to describe in there also. So anyway, it's a decent poster. Same basic principle here. When you've got a whole bunch that are all the same size, do those all together. So I am going to be doing a whole bunch of 11 by 17 posters, one right after another. All I'm going to have to do is change the name of the group. Now on this one here, I didn't have room for licensed. So when I erase this, the next one I should have room for it. So I just cut and paste Control-C and Control-V. So I'll cut and paste the word license. It's always saved in here for it anyway. So basically the same basic principle here. The main image, it's not quite flat. It's not straight down. Just because I didn't feel like messing around with this, we just wanted to get these items up because of the holiday. Holiday is the season where you want to get it all up as quickly as you can because sales are coming in. We're rocking right now. These should have been up sooner. There is a high probability of band collectors buying a lot of this stuff for friends and family. I'm going to put it up now. It'll be up for next year, worst case scenario, if I don't sell a ton of it. Either way you go, posters do extremely well throughout the year, especially for a fan. A Jane's Addiction fan definitely is going to recognize the artwork. That's the main aspect of the main image. That's what's going to draw them in. So when they're scanning through here, obviously the gallery view will be a little bigger, but anyway, this gives you an idea on what I do with them. So if you have any other questions or concerns, you saw how I'm going to store them. They're going to be laid flat, stacked up 6 inches tall. I'm going to have a piece of paper distinguishing when the next letter starts. So that A1, you see it right here, right in the title, the last part, just like any other ones. Now, A1 I've used for records. I've used it for postcards, trade cards, photos, labels, stickers, stamps. I use the exact same one over and over again because you automatically know that if it's a poster, it's A1 posters and not records or stamps or something. So it's rather easy to distinguish them from each other, even if you're using the exact same numbers or lettering system. Just use them for different items that you don't store together, and it's super, super simple, super, super easy. With these two, I would actually think about rolling them possibly. You could send these in a box if you've got a bunch of boxes, instead of worrying about flat cardboard and stuff. Now, we have a ton of these, but I also have a ton of boxes because I get a bunch of them from free from eBay, and it's a size that I don't usually use except when I'm doing posters like this. So we ordered some of those. I'll just roll these up really large. They'll just be sealed in plastic, so nothing will happen to them. All going in a box. It'll be simple and easy on this sort. Now, the longer ones, like the 41-inch or longer, those are going to have to go in either a triangle or a tube. I don't like to ship posters that are more than, say, 13 or so inches in a box like that, or even flat. So keep that in mind when you're going to actually list them. Make sure you understand how it's going to be to ship them. Now, shipping-wise, they'll be just a hair over £1, so it's £2 to ship these out, whichever way they are going. If this was going to be shipped first class, it would still be around $5 or $6 either way, so I'm fine with the cost on this based on these being collectibles also. Well, there we have it. That should give you some more ideas on the poster aspect. If you're interested in seeing the posters as I list them, you just type in store poster or even poster in my store and then sort them by newest to oldest, and you should be able to see all of them as we list them. We'll be listing at least 300 more lots, I think, is what I got slated of just posters. One day we shot 611 photos of them, and another day I think we did another 145 or so of larger sized ones, like actual movie theater posters too. So again, I do thank everybody, and I hope that was helpful.